Welcome to In the Black with 𝐐𝐤 �W. On today's episode, we will discuss money tips for COVID-19 with Laila from debtfreesweetie.com.
Yes, I can.
All right.
Welcome, welcome.
Thank you.
Quite a few people in the room.
Yes.
So we're gonna just give a couple minutes. It's just 1 o'clock now, so we'll give a couple minutes for people to get on. How is everyone that's out there? We are welcome to chat in the chat box if you don't want to show your face. Hey, Unique. Hey, 𝐐𝐤, Tony, Scott, Matt. I'm just gonna allow a couple minutes for people to come into the room. Hey, Angela, thanks for joining the room.
Where's everybody joining from? If you want to drop that in the chat box where you're located.
Everyone's shy. Okay. All right, it's 1:01. I don't see anyone else in the waiting room. So hi, Laila, how are you?
I'm good. How you doing?
Oh, hey, 𝐐𝐤 coming in for Charlotte, Tony, DC.
Oh, nice.
Hi.
So we got North Carolina and DC represented.
Yes, we do. Okay, so yeah, Laila. Okay, Matt. Oh, you're in DC. Okay, DC's in the house. DC is in the house. So we're gonna go ahead and get started. I don't see any more people in the waiting room. So Laila, tell me a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so my name is Laila. I am the founder and content creator for debtfreesweetie.com. And basically, my financial journey, I guess you can say, kind of took a big leap when in 2016, I started learning about becoming debt-free. And I'm so grateful that I came across some free online content about how to do that. And I got really serious about it. I was in between full-time jobs at the time. And I said, all right, whenever I start working full-time again, this is going to be my journey. And I took the next 2 years, 25 months, and paid off $44,000 in debt. That included student loan debt, that included the car loans, the medical bills. I had a little bit of credit card bills, but I started sharing my journey on debtfreesweetie.com to encourage and inspire others to also seek after freedom from debt.
Wow, so you're debt-free at this point?
Thank you, Lord. I am debt-free.
Amen. So how does that feel? That must feel liberating.
Oh my gosh, it is such a good feeling. I remember when I sent in my very last student loan payment. Oh my gosh. I mean, I don't know how many on the call are millennials, but I know for our generation, it is just a weight that is constantly on us, and it feels like we're never going to get out from under. So it feels good to not have that weight.
Wow. Well, congratulations to you, and thank you so much for being the first to join. I see someone else wanting to come into the room. Welcome.
Hi, Medora.
Joining the room. So that's so liberating. So just a little bit about me, just in case the people on the call aren't aware. My name is 𝐐𝐤 �W. I am a real estate agent. I'm also an investor. I currently work with a Coldwell Banker. I'm in the top 5% in international sales. So if you're thinking about buying or selling, or you want to get that first investment property, I'm definitely your go-to person.
And I would just throw in there too, Erica and I have known each other for a really long time, and I have learned so much about finances from just watching this woman. So she's the woman to watch.
Oh, thank you so much. So now, if you could give us a few tips tips. I mean, you have all this debt, so you're barely, you're knowledgeable as far as like what it takes to save money, and you have all the money tips.
Well, I am serious about saving money and serious about seeing others win in different areas of their life. So I'm glad to share these tips with you. I'm going to start with food, because if you're anything like me, you love food. And no matter what your status is, I know we have some folks who are out of work or are furloughed, some who are continuing to work, you're working from home, and maybe you're on the front lines, but everybody has to eat. So I'm going to start with some food tips as you're getting food. First of all, the usual tips still apply when it comes to grocery shopping. Always make a list. Never, ever, ever go when you're hungry, because you will end up with much more in your cart than you intended if you're not intentional that way. But also, a lot of times, nowadays with the coronavirus, we're walking into grocery stores and we're seeing empty shelves, and that can induce a lot of panic in us and make us just want to scramble and get everything in sight. Don't do that. Make sure that you start off with your list and you stick to your list as much as possible. The other thing that I will say about groceries too is, when possible, try to buy staples or ingredients that you can use across multiple meals, as opposed to one processed boxed meal or packaged meal that will only last one person one meal. For example, if you get a bag of flour, a 5-pound bag of flour, doesn't cost that much. You can make tortillas, you can make bread, you can make cookies, so think about things that are really going to last for a longer stretch of time. Those things that grandma did, that we saw her doing it. I mean, it might even be time to pull out that oil jar and set it by the stove. I don't know, because this is a time to conserve and to really be thinking about lasting through this crisis, but also beyond.
Okay, that's a good point. So you're saying stock up on necessities. So don't go out and buy like 10 bulk things from Costco or toilet paper.
Yeah, so I'm not going to say don't buy what you need. If you have a big family, you might need 10 things of toilet paper. But if it's just you and your husband, you have one kid, think about it in terms of what you're actually going to use for 2 weeks, 4 weeks, maybe even 6 weeks. But when you start buying for 6 months at a time, toilet paper, you're kind of doing a lot.
Right. That makes sense. So yeah, because there's a big old frenzy on different things. So just, me and my husband, it's just the two of us. So I just bought one bulk item of toilet paper, one bulk item of, the paper towels. I feel that that's sufficient because it's two of us. But yeah, of course, it's your judgment call if you have a larger family. What else do you want to share with us, Laila?
Yeah, so another thing, this is about accounts, because there obviously was a time when I was not debt free. I thank God that I am now, but everybody has a light bill, everybody has a water bill, and a lot of us have credit cards and car loans and all that. If you are one of those folks who is struggling right now, or things are really tight for you right now, maybe you're out of work, call your creditors. And I would even say, to think about your own situation, but maybe if it's not tight for you, maybe call your creditors also, and just see what they can do. You'd be surprised right now how a lot of companies are really being lenient. Companies are, trying to think about how they can help their clients, trying to think about how they can present a helpful face to the world. So take advantage of that. Even my car insurance company, Erica, you and I were talking about this the other night on a call. Car insurance companies are giving discounts. I know I have Geico, they're giving a discount of 15% across the board to everybody. And other companies, you have to call them and say, hey, is there anything you can do? Listen, if it's a scary thought for you, just think all they can say is no. That is the absolute worst that can happen, is you ask them, can you do something for me? And they say no. But the best that can happen is you say, what can you do? And they say, oh, Ms. Johnson, I'm so glad you asked, because we can do this and that. So call your companies.
I know that people are also calling their cell phone companies, their internet companies, whoever you have services with. Someone just put in the message box, that's hubby. Also reach out to your mortgage company to inquire about forbearance and getting your payments paid outside. That doesn't impact your credit. So he's saying if you are going to reach out to your mortgage company, just, have a conversation with them. And just in that conversation, just say, hey, so you're making sure, I'm doing this, but I'm not this isn't going to impact my credit. So that is very important. Yeah, because you don't want to mess up your credit.
Absolutely. And I think right now the world is in crisis mode. You really want to make sure that first and foremost, you have your basics taken care of: food, shelter, water. If you're able to, make sure those things are good, that's your first priority. Now, if your pay is not disrupted right now, see if you can get a forbearance, or see how you can, focus on what's most important. But I will just say, remember, there's a difference between a forbearance and forgiveness. So if they're saying forbearance, know that you will have to pay that back. They're just saying, we'll stretch it out a little bit before the payment is due. A forgiveness, if you can get that, that's really nice, because that means you don't have to pay it back at all. But if you hear that other F word, forbearance, just know you'll have to pay it back later.
Yeah, that's important, because we don't want, if you're struggling, you have lost your job, we don't want you to lose your house to a foreclosure or a short sale or anything of that nature, especially if you are homeowners on the call. So it's important to reach out and be upfront with your mortgage company, and typically they will step in, because they know that everyone is struggling during this time. So that's a great point. That's a great tip. Thanks for sharing that, Antonio. What other tips do you have, Laila, for us?
Yeah, so kind of when I think about what we were just talking about, how companies are doing a lot of things to help people out. Unfortunately, there are also a lot of bad actors who are exploiting this crisis to hurt people and to enrich their own household, shall we say. So be on the lookout for something that sounds too good to be true. If you see something online, if you see something, in a text where it says that somebody's going to give you $1 million if you just float this message to the next person, or if you call this number, if you give them your date, birthday, mother's maiden name, and blood type, just be cautious, because unfortunately, as people are struggling, there's another group of folks who are ready to take advantage of our vulnerabilities right now and will pounce on that. So be on the lookout for those scammers.
Yeah, I saw something about people scamming via Cash App. And in addition, there was something floating around about Tyler Perry giving money to people.
Oh,
yeah. Yeah, Tyler Perry giving away money. Just
he's generous.
People are sharing it. They're like, yeah, Tyler Perry's here. Let me give him my Cash App. But it was a hoax. So you want to be careful, because even in addition to trying to take your money, they're trying to steal your information, your contact, all the information there is about you, your personal information. So be very leery before providing information to anyone, especially during this time period. Like Laila said, there are people that are trying to hurt you. They want to harm you. It may sound great, it sounds good, but in the end, they're not trying to assist you during this time period. So that's
and think about those. And think about those things that you have to give to creditors when you're trying to open your new accounts. What do you have to give them? Your birthday, sometimes your mother's maiden name, your full government name, as we say sometimes. Those personal details that if any other person had it, they could do something with your account. So you let that be a trigger to you for those, pie in the sky deals that we're hearing about.
That's good. Thanks for sharing that. Do you have 2 or 3 other tips for us too?
Yeah, I'll give 2 more. And this one might be a little bit unconventional, as we think about money, but I think it's really relevant. Watch how your own emotions are right now. And the reason why I say that is because so often our mental state, our emotional state can affect, in fact, almost always, it affects our spending and our decisions about money. So I've seen a lot of people on my Facebook feed, and my personal Facebook feed, talking about how bored they are. And I'm not, let me just be clear, I'm not on this tip where people are saying, if you don't come out as a Grammy Award winning author and business owner and 6-pack, you're not taking, that's not what I'm saying. But I have seen a lot of people talk about how bored they are. That's fine, but don't let that boredom lead you to unwise purchasing decisions. And here's another thing. Don't let that boredom make you eat all the food in your refrigerator that you just make good money to buy. And the only reason why you're eating is because you're bored. Now your grocery bill is higher. And not just boredom, because a lot of us in this time of social isolation are literally isolated. It's just me in this house for the last, however many weeks I've been in here. And that can get lonely. That's real, right? But in that loneliness, in that sadness, and the acute depression, and even if you're just excited, that's not always the time to go on Amazon and get 300 new items that you really don't need. So watch your emotional state in terms of how that affects your purchasing decision.
That is a great point. It's so easy at this point, even if it's not Amazon, Macy's, or wherever. Target, Walmart, whatever those places are that you frequent online. It is important. You don't want to get your budget out of control, especially if it's something that you don't need.
Yeah.
For things that you do need, yeah, sure, go ahead and purchase them. But in dealing with that boredom, there are other things that you can do as far as taking care of yourself. It's called self-care. Yeah. I have my friend *𝐐𝐮𝐢 on the line. She has actually a Facebook support group, and it's self-care. She can chime it in the chat box, but it's centered around self-care. And there are just like free things that you can do. You can read a book. Yeah, like I have a coloring book right now that I'm coloring. Whatever, take some time, during this time period, especially if you're in a high intense area like Charlotte, and I saw the people that are from DC. When do we ever get this time to just be? Yes, we still have to work, but when can you just sit outside on your porch if you have one, or you can, for the green spaces that are open, when do you get to the opportunity to really fully embrace those green spaces? I know Antonio and I, so *𝐐𝐮𝐢 just wrote in the account, self-care isn't selfish.
I love that.
That's the name of her support group that she has going on right now. And I'm actually in there. So, we have a lot of dieting tips. So just tips for your overall being as a person.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So Tony and I, we actually took, I think it might have been I would say an 8-mile bike. We biked to the other side of town yesterday, and we biked back. Those are some things that we rarely get to do, and we have our bikes and we enjoy them. Yeah. So just take this time, be creative. You can be creative without spending money.
Absolutely.
Because you need to save that money, because the important thing about saving your money is so that you can, build towards retirement, build towards home ownership, whatever there is that you have goals to do. But if
I'm so glad you did that. I'm so glad you said that. That's really important. And, if you do find yourself really, really bored, to Erica, to your point, it's a great space now to sit down and dream. What are my financial goals? Do I want to be a homeowner one day? How much do I need in retirement? Start reading these books on that can help you get closer to that financial goal. And I will wrap up with just one final tip kind of to that point. And that last tip is to start continue being intentional about your money. And I'm going to say what for many people is a really scary word. It's a B word, and that word is budget. And if somebody asked me, what's the single thing that you would say helped you get out of debt, Laila? I would say making a budget, a unique budget every single month. That basically, it's not a scary thing. Basically, a budget is a plan. It's a plan for what you're going to do with your money. And it should be based on your priorities, like we were just talking about. If your priority in life right now is to buy a house, if your priority is to save up for your kids' schooling, or even take a trip, because self-care isn't selfish. We just established that, right? But your budget should align with what your priorities are. And it's your plan of how you're going to reach those priorities on a long-term basis, but also for the month or for the 2-week period that you're paid. So whether you're, out of work right now, or whether you're working right now, whatever your status is, know that at some point we're going to get on the other side of this. And it's never too early to start being intentional, to start making that budget, which again is your plan for what you're going to do with your finances.
Right. So I'm glad that you brought up the budget. I know that you mentioned that you help people with building budgets if they need assistance.
Yeah, yeah. If you're interested, right now though, I will say I have an article on my website. You can look where I walk you through how to make a budget. I also have a video about how to make a budget. I've done workshops. I can do workshops on how to make a budget. If you have a venue, we can talk about that. But it's so important. And the scary thing, and I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but it's our reality. Is in the United States, 4 out of 5 people are living paycheck to paycheck. This is pre-coronavirus, right? So this was a few months ago. Count 5 friends, 4 of them are living paycheck to paycheck, and maybe some of us on this call are. But that is a nudge for us to say, okay, how can I start being more intentional as opposed to waiting for the month to happen to me or waiting for my paycheck to happen to me? No, I'm going to happen to my money. I'm going to put some intention behind my goals and my plans and what I want to do, and I'm going to happen to my money.
Oh, that's really deep.
Yeah.
So now I'm gonna briefly open it up. I am gonna go in this chat box, but if you don't mind, Laila, sharing your information, I put in there debtfreesweetie.com. One thing that in Charmaine's group again is self-care isn't selfish. That's on Facebook, so you can just go and search through there. And it's like I said, is a group just so that because we're in this together.
Yeah.
And so that group is very inspiring to me. That's why I'm in it. One thing that Tony mentioned, he said, if you do reach out to these companies and they are not showing any mercy towards your situation, then maybe that's a provider or a company that you no longer should do your services with. So he said, make sure you track those for future relationships and, just get rid of them if you don't need them.
Yeah. At this time, in some ways we can say that we have some leverage. A lot of companies are doing things to help their clients and their customers. So try to use that leverage. Try to say, well, T-Mobile's doing this or Verizon's doing this. What can you do for me? And if not, like Brother Tony said, it might be time to check on out of there. So
right, because he said treat your house like you're a credit bureau. It's your money.
That's your
money. You have to give it to them.
That's right.
That is true. So at this moment, what I'm going to do is unmute everyone and allow you to ask Laila any questions that you might have. So I'm gonna unmute you now. Are there any questions in the room in regards to any money tips? Laila she just shared about 5, but she is very knowledgeable. She is debt free, and it took a lot of sacrifice, and she made it happen. Do you have any questions? Any questions in the room?
And it looks like they might still have to do themselves.
Anybody have any questions that you want to ask Laila while we have a couple minutes? Everyone's shy.
And if you don't want to speak, you can also type it.
Oh yeah, you can type it. We're looking in the chat box.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, this is Tony. So what extreme measures did you take to get debt free? Because you hear about people making sacrifices, but do you have an example of a sacrifice that you did or something that was not normal that everyone doesn't do? So to share with us.
Yeah, thanks for that question, Tony. I did. So I'm a single woman, and I know people start their debt-free journeys at different stages of their life. One advantage of me starting it as a single woman was I did have a lot more flexibility in terms of decisions I could make as far as one of those was instead of getting an apartment where I paid, like more than $1,000 in rent, I rented a room in someone's home. And my rent was $450, and then later on it got bumped up to $500 for that space. Now, obviously, that was a way to save a lot of money and throw that money saved at the debt. It was uncomfortable though, and you said that word, Tony, sacrifice. It was definitely a sacrifice, but it was a temporary sacrifice. So, and the other temporary sacrifice is I had a car that I loved. I sold that car and I got a beater car that I hated. And I'm saying I hated that car, but I used that car to get me not only from physically point A to B, but A to B in terms of my goals. And that was finally paying off my debt. And now I have a better car.
That was good. I saw that Jaquilla was wanting to chime in. Great question, Tony. You have-
Hi. Thank you, Erica. Hi, Layla. How are you?
Hey, Jaquilla.
I just have a quick question. How do you balance being on a budget and making those sacrifices, but also throwing in some rewards once you hit milestones? How do you balance that?
Oh, that is such a good question. You know, so I won't, you know, it's not a secret for me. I'm a big fan of Dave Ramsey, but I'm a big fan of Dave Ramsey to a point, you know, and Dave Ramsey is all about scorched earth and never see the inside of a restaurant. Of course, none of us can right now, but you know, you're going hard for 2 years, 3 years straight until everything is paid off. Yes to that. But if that ends up what you do, you're going to get really fatigued very fast, especially when you are making those sacrifices. You're living in a cramped room, you're driving this $1,000 car that needs another repair. That's tiring emotionally. And so one thing that I did was, here's this B word again, in my budget, I actually budgeted in fun. I set aside, you know, $20 a month, or if I'm gonna be honest, it's more like $10 a month for restaurants, which is 2 times at McDonald's or 1 time at Chipotle. Or one of those milestones when you're paying off your debt, and let's say you have $40,000 in debt or $50,000 in debt, and you get to $10,000, go out and celebrate. And if you can, go out and celebrate with your friends, you know, invite other people into your successes and share that with them. And I think that's so important, because we're not only logical, we're emotional beings. And if nothing else, this time in isolation has proven that to us, because we're so frustrated. But set those milestones, and when you reach them, please do yourself a favor and celebrate.
Wow, that's really good. That's a great question. What advice would you give to couples who have different views on finances? Let's say they both want to be debt free, but one is uncomfortable with spending money and the other is uncomfortable with putting extra money towards debt.
Yeah, that's a great question. And before I answer, I'm gonna just give the caveat that I'm not a married woman. And so, you know, I say this based on some good tips that I've heard, but not from my own personal experience. I would say that it's important to get on the same page as much as possible when you're talking about all of the financial stakeholders, all the financial decision makers in your home. And the best way to do that, here's this B word again, is in your budget. Remember, a budget is a plan. That's what a budget is. And so what that might mean, if you're able to get, you know, both folks on board, let me back up actually. Before you even get there, I always go back to this. Start dreaming. Start thinking about, okay, what would it look like if we were out of debt? What would we do with another $1,000 a month, another $1,500 a month, another $300 a month if we finally paid this car off? What would your husband do? You know, what were the things that he would like to see in his life? What would your wife do? What are the things that she would you go to Tahiti? Would you buy a boat? Dream a little bit. And then once you both can kind of understand that this debt payoff journey is not just about eating rice and beans every night or eating crackers and chips every night, but it is really about, again, you happening to your money. It's about you being intentional and setting goals, not just for your finances, but really for your whole life. You know, if you are able to retire, if you're able to send your kids to school, or if you're able, and this is so important, my God, if you're able to break that family line of poverty and start a new generational narrative for your family, this is real. You know, it's not even just about money, but if you can dream a little bit, think about your vision for your life, your legacy, what's important, that's your starting point. And then from there, you can say, okay, now we have a vision. Now we have some goals that we dreamt about. Now we can start making a plan. And everyone should be involved. The financial stakeholders in your family should be involved in that plan, should have a say in that plan.
That's really important. Antonio and I, we actually are working on a book It's called Until Debt. And in that book, we definitely focus on that because once you become married, you become a team. You become one. So it's getting on one accord and, just bringing it all in. Like right now, you have enough time. You're quarantined together. I mean, this is a great time because when would you have another time like this to really sit down and have a heart-to-heart with your spouse or your significant other, your fiance, whoever, have that conversation. And also with your children, once you had that conversation, if you have children, hey kids, this is what mom and dad has decided to do. And this is what you're gonna have to do in order for us all to meet this goal. So that's important. Everyone getting on one accord and bringing, because I know Tony and I, we went through that debt-free journey and we had to say no a lot, because like you said, you created that budget and the budget says this. So it's like, well, unfortunately, we're not gonna have to be able to do that that couple movie night this time because we have a plan. And we stuck to that plan. So I really appreciate you sharing about your debt-free journey, Laila. Does anyone else have any additional questions? We have a little bit more time. I don't want to hold you too long. I'm looking in the chat box to see.
And I saw that Charmaine messaged me. Charmaine, I'm gonna give you my email address and I'll put that in the general chat box too. If anybody has any other questions they want to message me directly, that's fine. That's about how to get out of debt.
Jaquilla said, you mentioned Dave Ramsey. Any additional podcasts or resources that you recommend?
Yeah, so another great resource, since we were just talking about couples and money, is hisandhermoney.com. They are such a dream team that I love to see. They have so many great resources. And even though they focus specifically on money management for couples, so that's a really great resource for couples, but there's a lot you can glean from them if you're single like I am. So they're a great resource. And honestly, YouTube, you got people, everyday people, regular folks like me who are also sharing their journeys. And the reason why I suggest that is because for me, before I made that firm decision, I'm going to pay off debt, I saw so many stories of people, regular folk of all different walks of life, white, black, upper class, middle class, who were just on their grind and determined. So get inspired by those stories too.
Yeah, thanks so much for asking that question, Jaquilla, in the chat box.
Yeah.
Anyone else have anything before we wrap up? Any more burning questions? We have someone that is debt-free. I wonder what the statistics is on that.
I don't know.
How many people are debt-free in America? A consumer society. Okay, seeing none. I will be on next Sunday. I plan to kind of keep this thing going. So next week, I'm going to bring one of my lender partners, and we're going to just discuss, is now a great time to buy or not? Is this, because there are a lot of articles that are saying you shouldn't or you should. So yeah, let's bring the expert on and see. So I'm going to post that flyer in the box just so you will have it. But do you have any closing remarks, Laila?
If I could leave you with one thing, I would say the word is about intention. For this space, it's really important for us to be intentional and to be strategic about our funds. But even after this ends, that big word is still intention. Focus on your intention and then make those steps to get there.
Wow, thank you so much. I really appreciate everyone's time.
Yes, thank you for having me.
You're welcome. We'll bring you back again. Do y'all think we should bring Laila? I should bring Laila back? Anybody?
I would love to come back.
Let's bring Laila back. Before we leave, if I was to bring Laila back, what would you want her to speak about?
That's a good question.
You can put it in the chat box. Bringing Laila back onto the show.
Yeah. How to make a budget.
Let's make it a finance party.
Oh, I love it.
This is a good
Budgeting.
Okay.
Awesome.
Okay. Well, we're going to bring Laila back and we're going to have her focus on those things. The budget, I'm going to have to get a little bit more details about this finance party. I don't know how to.
I just like how it sounds. I would just show up ready.
Yeah. A finance party. So this one, as you can see, if you are, if you have video, you can see the flyer for next week. So as DC housing market update is now a good time to buy. I'm going to have Chris Boston, and it's going to be at 1 p.m. as well. We're going to keep it short, sweet, and simple. But we just want to get to the heart of the matter. You know, is it a good time to buy? And the following week is going to be Mother's Day weekend. I'm going to have someone to come and talk about mothers and tips that mothers can have and bring to get their finances together. Right? That would be awesome. Right?
That is sweet.
Yeah. Let's
my mama can join on that one.
I would love that. So yes, have your mom to join in on Mother's Day. But most importantly, please, I want everyone to remember to be safe. You know, make sure you're using your hand sanitizer, wearing your mask, your scarf, do whatever you have to do to keep yourself safe and to protect your family. So, and I appreciate you joining in with me and Laila. I'm going to conclude this session. Thanks so much for all the positive feedback in the chat box. You guys enjoy the rest of your Sunday.
Thank you guys. Stay safe.
Thank you for subscribing to In the Black. See you soon.